It's a huge area of most people's lives because if you've been adulting for a while, our society still is completely run on money. And if you don't make enough, it dramatically affects your life. In the world of disability, it's huge. This episode is dedicated to Tia Ginchiest, and it will be a part of a series of episodes because this is such a big topic that we can't fit it all in one episode. So we're going to start off with this episode talking about our personal situation, and then talking more broadly about more of the systemic problems that exist. So a lot of things changed in the last decade financially. For more me, I say, than you, Dan. Because I used to work for many years in corporate America. And I started working in 1999 in college. And then I worked continuously from 2002 until 2009. And then I took 2 years off to go to business school. When I worked, I put a lot of money away. I saved about $75,000 before business school, and I was planning to use about half of it for business school, but I ended up using all of it for not just business school, but for other things as well to support my family. I graduated in 2011 from business school, and I got a job full-time, and I worked there until 2015. I made pretty good money. Like, I would say I had reached 6 figures. I left that corporate role in 2015 for a number of personal reasons. And I had no idea that making that move would have such a dramatic effect on my life financially. Both Dan and I know that to live with a disability is extremely expensive. And we talked a bit about that. One aspect of the expenses is personal care. So if you rely on personal care and you earn a certain amount of money, then it's on you to pay for it. Now, a lot of those expenses are paid for through different government programs such as Medicaid or Medicare. I tried finding a new corporate job, focusing on the last area that I worked in, which was HR, and I had been unsuccessful for 3 years straight. And 3 years trying to find a job is absolutely crushing. And I know, Dan, you're like giving me this face like, 3 years ain't nothing, woman. And then I've been having a lot of odd jobs, part-time jobs, consulting gigs, since that time. Why don't you talk about a little bit about your situation before I go into the dramatic changes that occurred from 2015 financially?
Well, yeah. I received SSDI,
which is Social Security income.
SSDI,
which is Social Security disability income.
Because I received a settlement.
It wasn't a settlement, it was an insurance policy.
My parents and then
Oh, brother.
Hell yeah.
Passing the buck there. So essentially, when Dan was in this accident, which is in the Dan's disability story, and if you haven't watched it, come on, people. So when he was in this accident, his parents already at the time before the accident had had an insurance policy for catastrophes for any one of their children or themselves. In the event of a catastrophe, this policy would pay for medical expenses. And essentially, that's what Dan was awarded when he was in this accident. He was also given, when he turned 18, $200,000 to live off of for the rest of his life. And he could choose to use it for school, to use it for living expenses. It was really up to him once he turned 18. And he chose to use it for both and have it invested as conservatively as possible. But why don't you talk about your experience with trying to get a job? You went to college to go and get a political science degree. You wanted to work in government, yeah?
Yeah.
What happened?
I fell flat on my face.
Not literally, Dan.
And nobody called.
As long as I had known Dan, he was either volunteering at a local organization, and he told them many times that he would be happy to work for them and not be a volunteer anymore, and that never came to fruition. He has worked odd jobs here and there, but when it came to full-time positions, he wasn't hired. It has been extremely disappointing to see that, even though you have a strong desire to be self-sufficient financially and you could work, you're not given the chance to work. We were just like picking at anything. I would ask Dan, like, well, what about this? What about doing that? What about that? And I said, okay, would you consider being a model? Because I hear that this is a thing. And you said, yeah. And I have to say, as a job, I think modeling really suits you. So I knew when I started dating Dan that he relied on a very small pool of money to live off of, and that the likelihood of him getting a full-time job that would sustain not only him but the both of us would also be a lower chance. You would probably think, well, why did you leave your very lucrative corporate position? And as I mentioned before, there were a number of reasons, but one of them was my dad had died in 2015. He was the one driving me back and forth. When he died, my mom took over, but then she was taking care of me. She was taking care of my middle sister. She was driving 4 hours a day to get me to work and back, and herself and back. I was very concerned that my mom would end up in an accident because she was so sleep deprived, and she was older at the time. She was already in her 70s. So I had a feeling that if I kept this up, something pretty bad would happen. And that was a major impetus for not staying in the job. Now I know that I probably had more options available to me. There's like the Family Medical Leave Act. I could have discussed my personal situation more with my managers and HR, but I wasn't as savvy and I didn't do that, and there were other reasons too. Where does this leave us? So what we rely on now primarily is my SSDI. And I applied for it about a year after resigning from my job, when I realized, okay, I'm not getting a new job anytime soon. People had the question about like, oh, well, how do we manage being married and being on SSI? Well, Dan doesn't qualify for SSI because of the insurance assets that he has. And I don't qualify because I worked and I paid into the system for many years, so I was given SSDI instead. And that put me in both of us in a really bad spot, because then that means I don't qualify for Medicaid, which means that I qualify for Medicare, which is generally for older Americans, but this policy doesn't allow for or doesn't pay for home and community-based services as Medicaid does. This is kind of depressing, folks. This is an area of our life that there is tremendous frustration, because as we'll talk about in subsequent episodes, this is a systemic problem. But essentially, that's what we live off of right now. We live off of Dan's savings and investments, as well as the SSDI income that comes in. I also have a part-time job, but because I rely on SSDI, I'm only permitted to make $1,310 max a month. Well, most of the time it's way less than that. Is this ideal? Absolutely not. Do we wish it was better? Yep. We're trying to earn a living through YouTube, but that is a very, very long and arduous process, because it doesn't happen overnight, folks. I think that for you, Dan, modeling full-time is something that has a lot of potential. It's been decades for Dan. And that just speaks to the discrimination and people's prejudice around disability. And when they meet someone or a candidate with a very visible disability, it's like an automatic wall goes up. And we know we don't even have it as bad as many, many, many people with disabilities do. People are kept in poverty on purpose, which is ludicrous. So we are not in poverty, but we earn, I would say, poverty level, like a level of income. And we're working to change that.
Yeah.
Keep it Ginchiest.